When it came to you, I was at this stage of the game where I was looking at all the rules I had, and the first thought was like, okay, I need to prune takeaways. It's too much stuff. It's a Christmas tree. I need to simplify it a bit. But the second thing was, okay, I have something. I have done what I knew I was going to do, which is create something that snapshots very well a certain fantasy character in a certain moments of his life. But the next question is this guy alive? Is this going somewhere? And I felt, okay, I need to take a step back and work on that before I do anything else. I need to make this alive and fun to play, not to look at.
Right. I completely agree. And so that's a very, very good point. And I really like this. I really like the fact that the game doesn't need complicated subroutines. And it doesn't need too many mechanical connections between its different parts. The ones, if they are kept easy to see and easy to use, the connections that are there, then you will see those other connections and consequences that you want spontaneously appearing. And they're different for different people. One person would never penalize their character's movement like that. Another person, but they will do something else. They will be all about their character falling in love, even though there's no falling in love mechanic. You see?
Yeah.
All you have to do is have their investment in the character's activities be supported by the mechanics you have, and then these other properties will come in.
Yeah.
But if you fall into the trap of historical D&D, which is to focus strictly on improvement for its own sake, what you're telling them is that all that love and all the injury and all the drama doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right. So you see, that's our problem. We can't over-engineer that stuff, but we also can't just say the game has nothing to do with it, right? The game, that's the art part. You just bring in the art. Right?
Yes.
That's good role-playing.
Right. The question is, well, when you play D&D, you also you make that famous distinction, the game and the conversation.
Right.
The conversation.
What I'm avoiding. Yeah.
So, and the conversation is the game in
exactly.
The end. People remember the conversation and not the game. So
So
what
we need are mechanics, but we want those mechanics to catch with each other and work together.
Yeah.
Did you? I don't think I shared this with patrons a long time ago, and I've talked about this with people since then. And this is an analogy that is maybe too artistic. Right? So this, it has to do. Did you and I talk about this? The functions of the AK-47, the rifle.
I think we touched briefly, but I don't think we talked.
Okay.
I remember something about this, but
maybe I talked about it with somebody else recently.
Yeah.
But the idea is that the AK-47 is a brilliant rifle because the parts do not fit together precisely. Because they can, instead of each rod and each hole being absolutely perfectly sized for each other, the hole is too big. So the rod that goes through it can wiggle. And the things that hold the rod on either end are also a little loose. Right? So that means if any crap gets in there,
it still works.
It'll work. It'll just wiggle whatever it needs to do under the pressure, and that piece of crap will get blown out with the gas.
Yes.
So it's exactly the opposite of the precise engineer who carefully calculates the exact minimum amount that he can get that hole down to so the rod will fit in it perfectly. The engineer will be very, very happy when he has done that. The gun will jam.
Yeah.
And so the AK-47 has many properties that I like to use as an analogy. But that's what I'm talking about in terms of how the pieces fit together. If you have step-ups in your dice, for example, if you have step-ups in your dice, for one of our competences.
Yeah.
So I get to step up a die by 1d6 to 1d8 because I have a dot in light weapons.
Yeah.
I don't want these boxes in my life path
to tell you no.
Be step-ups.
No.
I need to do something else.
No, yeah.
Right? And so that way you have lots of little parts which operate when they operate, and neither one but they wiggle because they're used when they're needed, and they're not invoked when they're not needed. Right? They're not when they're not involved. So it's to me it seems like you have a really nice, clean design. The chance for this, looking at it, the chance for somebody to come in and say, oh, it's not complete, and to put in 5,000 secondary rules.
Yeah.
You can see it, but that's exactly what we're not doing, right?
Yeah.
You were saying, you're right. You ought to avoid the Christmas tree. Yeah.
We need to,
But it's not so, what I see here anyway, I mean, I'm not looking at the whole manuscript, but it's what I see here is that it's really not too crazy. I mean, it's not, there isn't, I mean, I haven't seen the spell list, and I haven't seen your old skill list. So maybe maybe you have seen the crazy part, and I am seeing the
yes.
But still, it's the kind of thing where I'm saying, let's trust the players to understand the fantasy and to hold on to whatever mechanics are provided for their character's social development. Whatever that mechanic is, that they can grab it and they can see how it works and they can make their choices as they go through it. If they have that, again, though, we have to think about what fantasy means. And that's where that image comes in.
Yes.
That's the fantasy, right? And what I hear you say, it's about the monsters.
More or less, yes.
But that's what makes it fantastic. Otherwise, they could just be investigators or detectives or mercs in science fiction.
There is another. Well, I didn't finish that discourse before, and this is going to sound annoying because it pertains a video game. Sorry about that. But there is a video game, a modern video game. So it's one of the few video games I've played in the last few years because I kind of stopped playing a while ago. But this one captured my attention, and it was played an influence, not in the mechanics, but it's called Darkest Dungeon. And there is this mechanic in Darkest Dungeon where when your people are going to accumulate wounds and stress and those that, you need to rest, and you make a campfire. And there is this campfire image, people helping each other. I mean, there is one ability that's called, gallows humor. A guy makes some terrible jokes, and depending on what kind of people listen to them, they can feel better or feel worse. And that idea of, at least in my experience, that idea of this group of misfits who are so crazy that they will fight a Minotaur, at some point they have to dine, sleep, trust each other, talk, and do that kind of stuff is really matching my idea of fantasy. It's a moment. I mean, you spend the day fighting some horrible monster, something terrifying, but then at night you're going to have supper and recover and go over each other. And that's a part of the experience for me. It's a bizarre sense of family, Well,
again,
and I want to
right again. This is the kind of thing that we want to see develop sincerely, as opposed to be mechanic, over mechanized. But that's
why there isn't a mechanic for that yet in the game,
right? But
I can't bring
there
myself.
must be some way to do it, right? There must be you can see already role-playing games have been imitating this for a while. You even have these short rest, long rest mechanics, and in fact, in one of the games I just consulted for, during one guy's rest mechanic, he had a sub mechanic called campfire scene. So you can see that people are being heavily influenced by this.
Yes.
Right? So but the problem is, again, you need to have the mechanic give the opportunity for it. So if you said, for example, well, if you make this a camp, okay, well, do the campfire option, And if someone makes a bad joke, then everybody gets a recovery. Think about how annoying and unplayable this garbage is.
Horrible. Yeah,
exactly. Perfect. So as long as we stay away from that philosophy, let's just take it easy for a sec. Let's think now. You see, our conversation has stopped being about energy and options in combat.
Yeah.
I actually think that you should, as we've talked about before, learn to love the dice and the terrible things they do, and then and that will, learn to love the dice and the terrible things they do, and we can, I think, treat combat right now as at least functional, at least until we play lots and lots more.
Yeah.
But now we need to turn our attention to characters changing and characters developing, and how much mechanics are available for that to mean something to us. But it has to mean something to us in terms of options and change, and in terms of options and choices, not dictated, things.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting point, actually. Well,
very easy also. I mean, it's it sounds like it's not much work at all, or
maybe less work than you think. I think it's more a matter, again, of focusing on what we see in those pictures. What we see in those pictures is that the monsters are not stupid.
Yeah.
The vampire behind the party isn't stupid. The werewolf is not the stupid one in that picture.
No.
Right? What we have are monsters that want things and are prepared and are committed enough to do that kind of damage.
Yeah.
Right? So that's where I think your attention also needs to go. Partly because we can't answer how the characters develop until we get that larger sense of what the fantasy is.
Yes.
And going by the picture alone, it seems very clear that where this fantasy lies is in the, for lack of a better word, the legitimacy of the monsters.
Yes. Now I realize why you said it doesn't so crazy. It's because you haven't seen the monster design. When you see the monster design, it's going rather crazy.
That's what matters. Do you see?
Yeah.
That's actually really, really important. Because if we look at that and we say, oh, so that's how scenarios are made. That's how situations are made. That sets up the choices that players are going to have to make. Only then can we look at the life path and say, now what is that for?
Yeah.
It's an exciting problem to have right now.
Yeah.
It's not. I think that, tell you what, before next time, send me a monster.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Because I think you're right. That's where all of this is going to be centered. We can't make up the life path in isolation.
Yes.
We can't make up how it works in isolation. It has to be in the context of what is the fantasy.
Perfect. Okay. So, okay. Yeah. I will.
Cool.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, Lorenzo.
Thanks a lot for you. Let's do. Okay. Take care.